Velete, thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. In a compelling address, Pan-African thinker and founder of Farmers of Thought, Joshua Mamponga delivers a direct challenge to modern African governance, intellectual norms, and socio-political systems. Speaking directly to African citizens and leaders across the continent, Mamponga presents a radical reassessment of Western democracy and argues for a return to indigenous governance rooted in traditional royal houses and rotational leadership. Mamponga begins his address by confronting what he describes as Africans' lingering developmental stagnation. He observes that while other continents advance, many African nations appear to merely be escorting the rest of the world through life trapped in persistent poverty, hunger, and identity loss. Mamponga challenges the reliance on external solutions and passive waiting, arguing that waiting for outside intervention or future spiritual promises will not fix societal problems. Instead, he insists that African people must actively reshape their own reality, frame by frame. Mamponga sets out to disrupt comfortable thinking patterns, urging viewers to stop acting like passive followers who thrive in the dust of foreign systems.
Remember who you are, African children. Remember where you come from. Cut the tree of democracy. Put a brass chain around it. Feel like preaching now? Daniel chapter 4. Cut it down, but water this stump. It will germinate. It will germinate. As long as the roots are still on the ground and as long as I am still here, it will germinate. African children, remember who you are. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. But I will offend you in a nice way. So sit up straight, pull up your chair, and here we go on a roller coaster of a mind. In ancient times past, before colonizers came here, Africa had its own way of celebrating itself, had its own empires, had its own kingdoms. And these include the Sahel, the Axion, Carthage, Congo, Abyssinia, Munumtapa. These are really ancient monarchs that were here. And we had our own forms and ways we're governing ourselves before the white men told us how to govern us. And the comment that I'm receiving, particularly from our South African friends, it's I must always be talking about South Africa. I must talk about Zimbabwe. Here is the stinger on the timetable. Many people, when they want to laugh at countries and failed states, they want to look at Zimbabwe as a failed state. And that narrative is not coming from amongst us. It is coming from the Western people, or the Western world. It is coming from the farmers who were removed from our farms here, and we sent them back home. So here is the statement. Zimbabwe did what no other African country in the entire Commonwealth has done. That must be complimented. And that was to take land away from the white people. Yes, we can start having ideas. When they took it, they should have done this, they should have done this, and now the other 61 farms, you're giving them back to the white people. That's not where the conversation is. The conversation is we are the only country in the entire Commonwealth that took away land from the white people and we took it back to ourselves as a state. And that's where my problem is, right there. On taking away land from the colonialists and making that land state land. And yet we know that the state does not have a receipt from the traditional people from whence the land was taken from or stolen from. So all African governments, to say the least, that are saying they have state land, they are thieves. Because how can you have state land and yet you don't have a receipt of the state itself? And the state, which was a colonial state, had stolen the land from the African people who have not yet received that land. So even if the land is in the hands of the government, it doesn't mean that yet it is in the hands of the people under the jurisdiction of the royal houses, whom There we go for the uncomfortable conversation. Kings are the custodians. They are the trustees. And the people are the beneficiaries. This is under our traditional covenants. Kings are the trustees and the people are the beneficiaries. Therefore, we must not be afraid of restoring back our royal houses as the rightful trustees of the land. Yes, you heard me well. It doesn't mean that you can't process it if you don't understand that when Spain won, their king came to shake hands and give medals. But ask the bloodline of that king, how many African kings in the Caribbean and in Africa did they slaughter? You never stop to ask. You are so happy to celebrate the Queen's birthday, the King Charles' birthday, and what? And you don't ask the question, why did they kill your kings and they did not kill their king? Netherlands has a king. Germany has a king. France has a king. Spain has a king. Britain has a king. Bahrain has a king. Dubai has a king. China has a king. Malaysia has a king. And all these countries that I have mentioned, they are doing well. They are doing well while you are swimming in the poverty of democracy. Never seen a group of sick people like educated Africans. You are illegitimate children of the Commonwealth, which is common poverty. And you wiggle around this democratic thing and you think it will work. Take it from a fool. It will not work. It has not worked. You have your own methods in the past that are tested and tried, that our forefathers worked on. They built these empires using what we call consultative democracy. Not this thing you call democracy today. I mean, I'm not sparing my swords. People think maybe I'm afraid of Zimbabwe, I'm afraid of ZANU-PF. That's not the issue. Hear me well. Mugabe ran this country for 40 years. Was that democracy? Kagame is in power. Is that democracy? Museveni is in power. Biya is in power. Is that democracy? Democracy is window dressing. At the end of the day, these countries that I've mentioned, they are hiding under democracy, but in actual effect, they have a hybrid unspoken code where they're playing between kingship and democracy. They use democracy, the republic, to legitimize their positions as kings. Because that is the DNA of an African. We can deal with kings better than we can deal with presidents. Presidents we don't know. They are very new as when we received our independence. Before then, we did not have presidents. So we don't even have the DNA of the president in our hands. That's why when we elect these presidents, we address them as kings. That's what we address them as kings. So, 40 years of democracy, which is actually a monarch. Now, Dr. Emerson Mnangagwa is in power. He has hardly done, and he has done maybe 7 years in power. Now there's CAP 3, which talks of the extension to 2030. I told you a long time ago, I don't believe in democracy. What gets me fed up is getting people's emotions worked up to think that after 2010, 28, things will change. Then you're told it's 2030. 2030 comes and you hope that 2035, things will change. 2035, you hope that 2040 will change. What if I can tell you what you don't want to hear? That the man who walks into power is not going anywhere. And while he's not going anywhere, we might as well just make this royal thing official. But then we hybridize it. It's not only one family that is ruling. with a rotational system. A rotational system where all the 16 nations that are in Zimbabwe here, inclusive to the Ndau, Korekore, the Karangas, the Nambias, the Ndebeles, I don't know whether to call them Ndebele or Zulu, and the colored community and the white community and the Chinese community. We're going to have a quarter of 16 houses. And out of the 16 houses, we force the 16 houses to consolidate themselves into units. So for 10 years, it is the Karangas. For 10 years, it is the Nambias. For 10 years, it is the Ndebeles. For 10 years, it is the Korekores. For 10 years, it is the Tongas. We remodel our own democracy and our monarchical system to a functional, operative, consultative, societal democracy. You lose nothing to think outside of the box or bend the box and think. Who told you you must be fitting in this square box? Every election, you're dropping those little pieces of paper. You're voting for your poverty. Until you wake up from your sleep and intoxication with colonial education. Can't help you. Just think about it. Think about it. Farmers of thought, we're here to think. We're not here to endorse anybody. Many of you get confused. Sometimes when I do my things, you must be saying this, you must be saying this, you must be saying that. Shut up! You go and say it for yourself on your own page. I don't work for you. I'm not a parrot of your own imaginations and your own thinking. Then you must think, you must write on my page, Maponga say this, say that, say that. I don't want. You say it yourself. I think for myself. Mnangagwa is not going anywhere. Why? Because he does not want to go anywhere. Why? Can't we just apply our minds and use the same democratic system to create what I want to call now KEB 4? KEB 4. KEB 3 was to extend the term of a president. Tier KEB 3. Let's do KEB 4. Zimbabwe again will lead the way to become the first African state to break away from democracy back into monarchy. I have declared. We were the first to take the land. We will be the first again to break away from democracy and we go for the monarch. Stupid Africans get offended by your own kings and you pussyfoot around other people's kings. Hey, Mr. Maponga, Mr. Maponga. Mr. Maponga, my foot. I'm not Mr. Maponga, man. Never been to Britain and received an award and conferred to me I'm Mr. Who. Mr. Who, I'm not a subject of a queen. I'm not a subject of a king sitting somewhere in some Iceland, in some cold areas of Britain. Think, African children. Our weakest link are our educated community. Fantasize sitting around talking lots of English. I want to have a debate, a full confrontational debate. Call BT, call Tendai BT himself, call Mahere, call Ostalos, and call Chamisa. 6 of them. Put them there. Single-handedly. Talk lots of English. Our democracy, constitution, subsection number 5, constitution, subsection number 15, 16. 16 what? What has changed from 16 to 14 to subsection 98? You're slow to think. You are footnotes in your own history. Parrots regurgitating other people's ideologies. And you hate to think structuring your own ideologies. You think you're smart enough to perfect democracy. Look at Trump. That's democracy. You walk up to another country. You take democratically elected president of another country and make him a prisoner. That's democracy. Bomb Iran. That's democracy. Bomb Afghanistan. That's democracy. Kill Gaddafi. That's democracy. Wake up, African children. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Let me remind you who you are. I remember who we are. Kings and queens. And some of you who are busy promoting this democratic system are royal children who have forgotten themselves. Who have forgotten themselves. And they're now servants and slaves at the colonial master's table. Remember who you are, African children. Remember where you come from. Cut the tree of democracy. Put a brass chain around it. Feel like preaching now? Daniel chapter 4. Cut it down, but water this stump. It will germinate. It will germinate. As long as the roots are still on the ground and as long as I am still here, it will germinate. African children, remember who you are. Remember who you are. Remember who you are. Don't be forced and coerced with Western systems. Now we are heading for 100 years of trying this experiment of democracy, and every country that has tried it has failed. Then the one say, "Oh, but look at Rwanda. It is working." Come on, how long has Kagame been in power? Shut up, man. Shut up. No, look at Botswana. Botswana is working. Hey, man, Botswana has hardly 900,000 people. You cannot be talking 1.5 billion people, and you want to make an example out of 900,000 people. Oh, maybe South Africa is working. It's in flames. That's what democracy looks like. Burning streets, shooting each other, campaigning. Now I hear this whole thing again. People want to say much on the 31st of July. I have no comment for much on the 31st of July. Don't go and march. But what will change on the 1st of August? What will change? Even if you talk to the people who are doing the march, you okay, fine. You burn the bridges, you burn the buildings, you kill the president, get beaten by the police. Okay, now let's start. So who is coming? Okay, Mnangagwa is dead on the 31st. So where is the plan for the 1st of August? Who is the president? Who is the leader? And sometimes before you get yourself intoxicated, you must always look at these dark hands that work in the corridors of the foolish minds and the weak-minded. They'll push people to do certain things. But when they've done those things, always step back and look at who benefits from this move. Who is benefiting from this move? What is the intention of the move? We are not afraid, some of us, to tell you what we think. And what I think is that Zimbabwe needs to go back to its royal houses. Zimbabwe needs to kiss democracy goodbye. We need to find the educated community and we rethink this idea of consultative, societally driven democracy, where we can readdress and reconfigure the royal house to accommodate our modern times in which we are living in. Yes, in times past, it was one royal house that ruled forever and ever, and they would hand over their kingdom from son to son. But since we are now living in a semi-democratic country, we can say each tribe, each clan takes a leap at leadership, and we rotate amongst ourselves. If we are able to reach that goal of sealing up the 16 houses in Zimbabwe, and we give each one of them an allocation of 10 years, and we put that into CAB 4, we will have solved the political problem of Zimbabwe for 160 years.
A central pillar of Mamponga's discourse centers on land rights and state sovereignty. Mamponga points to Zimbabwe as a notable historical example within the Commonwealth, acknowledging its bold move to reclaim land from colonial occupiers. However, he extends his analysis into a sharp critique of modern African statecraft. He argues that when post-colonial governments take land away from colonizers and declare it state land, they often commit a secondary error. In his view, the modern bureaucratic state does not possess original deed or receipt from the traditional indigenous owners. According to him, under traditional African governance, kings and royal houses act as trustees and custodians of the land, while the citizens are the ultimate beneficiaries. Simple transferring ownership from a colonial master to a modern central government does not restore true ownership to the people. Therefore, he calls for restoring traditional royal houses as the rightful custodians and trustees of land across the continent, ensuring that land governance aligns with historical community rules rather than administrative bureaucracy. He levels a severe critique against modern Western democracy as practiced in Africa, describing it as imported framework that has repeatedly failed to deliver progress. To highlight what he views as an intellectual contradiction among educated African elites, he highlights several key arguments. Mamponga points out that many influential global powers, including the United Kingdom, Spain and the Netherlands, Malaysia, Bahrain, and others, maintain monarchies, royal traditions, or long-standing political dynasties while managing stable economies. Yet, when you come to Africa, everything has been pushed in the hands of these leaders. Mamponga knows that across various African nations, leaders often hold power for decades under the banner of democracy. In practice, he contends these systems operate like informal monarchies wrapped in democratic rhetoric. Mamponga argues that repeated expensive election cycles consume millions of dollars that could otherwise build roads, schools, and hospitals. In his view, voting in broken systems merely cycle through different political factions without changing underlying conditions. He asserts that Africans naturally understand traditional leadership structures far better than modern presidency, making imported democratic models feel aligned and perpetually unstable. Rather than continuing to rely on Western-style elections, he proposed a structured, homegrown political framework designed to ensure long-term stability and representation. He outlines a rational system based on tribal, cultural, and community representation. 1. Constitutional reform. He suggests creating a constitutional mandate that formalizes a transition from a purely Western presidential republic to a consultative traditional system, inclusive rotational leadership. In the context of Zimbabwe, he identified 16 distinct ethnic and community groups. He proposed allocating 10 years leadership cycles sequentially to each group. He argues that allocating 10 years of leadership per house across 16 traditional houses will establish a predictable, peaceful, and cooperative governance roadmap spanning 160 years, eliminating election-related violence and political turmoil. Through this model, Mamponga envisions a consultative framework where parliamentary representation is drawn directly from traditional quarters, combining cultural heritage with modern administrative needs. In the concluding portion of his speech, he addresses the cultural disconnect among modern political leaders and intellectuals. He criticizes leaders who adopt foreign attire, foreign administrative styles, and foreign values while expressing embarrassment toward their own native heritage. Mamponga urged African citizens to reject mental dependency and reclaim their historical identity. Remember who you are, African children. He urges the continent to stop copying foreign ideologies, step out of imported political frameworks, and build institutions directly rooted in native history, culture, and self-determination. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall. And united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we'll make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world and in Africa.